Hello, welcome back to another video. We're on podcast number 8 on the boxing show. I've got David Tobin with me today. Delighted to be joined by David. How are we? David,
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing, Sam? You're well?
Very, very well. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming on. We've got lots to break down and uncover today. We picked a good week to get you on.
Yeah, it's been interesting. There's been a lot of action.
Yeah, for sure. We'll kick straight into it. We'll go over to the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. So Gervonta Davis's much anticipated return to the ring. He hadn't fought for around about 14 months since the Ryan Garcia fight. Believe it or not, it feels like a lot longer than 14 months.
It feels like an age.
It does. He's been marred with issues, obviously, outside the ring and stuff like that. But in the end, took out Frank Martin with one punch in the 8th round. But that wasn't the entire story. It was a very competitive 7.5 rounds before he detonated that bomb on Frank Martin's chin. Talk to me about your thoughts on Tank versus Frank.
I thought it was interesting. I thought he really showed some ring rust for 2, maybe even. It wasn't until probably the second half of the 3rd round that I thought Tank's actually warming up here, because I think after 3, he was definitely 2-1, possibly lost all 3, maybe. But I don't think it was what he was throwing as much as I thought that Martin was really wary of the pressure. Yeah. And I thought Martin was worried about gassing out in reality from the beginning.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I think the judges unanimously had Frank Martin 3-0 up after 3 rounds.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure all cards were for Frank Martin. Then obviously the judges unanimously had Tank 1 point up at the time of the stoppage too, through 7 rounds.
But I think in the 3rd, actually there was a little turning point in the 3rd. In the 3rd, Tank ramped it up and he started applying the pressure. He had those lead left hands. There was a lot of body jabbing. A lot. I mean, a lot in Tank world, which is not many punches. But that said, it was what he wasn't throwing, but the pressure, the constant forward.
Yeah.
He was making him work so hard without throwing anything. He was making him work hard. And I think that was actually, and Martin said so afterwards, that actually what he found it really hard. There's just endless pressure on him without him throwing anything.
Definitely. I think I actually likened it to Tony Bellew against Usyk. Although, Bellew was in that fight at the time of the stoppage, he used that much energy and had to go so deep just to be in there and level with Usyk. Similar to Frank Martin, I think he used so much, of his repertoire and, had to be so good and, use every skill he had to be in there with Tank. He was in 5th gear, essentially. Tank was just, cruising along, rolling along. And
I don't think he was worried at any point. I don't think Tank thought, how is this going to work? He knows that he's got that equalizer.
Yeah.
And I also think he knew he was wearing him down. And I think that was what he thought from the beginning, was this guy's just never going to be able to keep this for 12.
It's his confidence and his, he's so comfortable in there under the lights. And what I love about Tank, you hit the nail on the head, is the pressure, but his judgment of range. He's never like there long enough to, yes, Frank Martin did catch him with a couple of really sneaky left hand counters and things like that, but Tank's pressure is he's not just a walk forward 1-punch knockout man who's looking for that all night. He can seriously box, Tank Davis. He really can.
No, and actually, it's interesting. I think judgment of distance was key in most of the things we're going to talk about. Distance judgment was actually a recurring theme. Interestingly, for a walk forward fighter wanting to counterpunch, that's what I love about Tank. Seeing somebody who really cuts off the ring, gets his distance, but he's waiting for the lead.
Yeah,
he's just waiting for that lead, and he really wanted Martin to open up. But I did think for 3 rounds, I don't know if Tank went in with Loma, for example, or you had that kind of thing, where you've got somebody that actually can get distance judgment that doesn't, do you know what I mean? Somebody that just won't stand in front of you, that isn't there to be hit.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting variable. I think 2 other things that I want to mention as well. First of all, I thought Frank Martin looked terrible at the weigh-in. I thought he looked incredibly drawn. I don't know if that, played a factor, because he was sat on the ropes. The I know you said there was a turning point. I think you said in the third as well, but
I thought so.
We could all see in round 7 that Tank really came on strong in round 7, and it kind of looked. It was a case of then, when's he gonna land? And Frank Martin was sitting on the ropes for those last couple of rounds, and he was asking for it, really, in fairness. But his gas tank could have been completely drained by that point. He might have had a bad weight cut because he didn't look great on the scales on Friday.
No, but I also felt like he had some predefined movement patterns. He was moving in certain ways. And I think that the movement patterns that worked for him 1 through maybe 4, maybe not so much 5 and 6, but they stopped working. Tank was figuring them out. He's like a little computer as he's going, and he's like just working out, okay,
very smart fighter.
How he's circling, whether there's the distance issues, what's coming at him. He just figures it out, and he's not worried about losing rounds. He's not bothered about it.
No.
Whether that will work, he's so inactive. Whether it will work for him as he gets in, but I don't remember him being in these hard, tough fights where it's taking a lot off his. It's what he's doing out of the ring that's going to wear his career down, not what he's doing in it.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. We need more activity from Tank. He is one of the biggest stars in the sport right now. In America, you're looking at Crawford, Canelo, and himself. They're the 3 big American pay-per-view. Obviously, Canelo's Mexican, but who would you like to?
Who do you want to see him fight?
It's an interesting one. I think, obviously we want to see the Shakur Stevenson fight. That's not going to happen next. It's just not. Like they'll build that one, I believe, in 12 to 18 months. Turkey is going to want that on his big Saudi boxing league.
In his league. Yeah.
I think that's the direction they'll go with that. The Loma fight's the one that makes sense, really. But obviously you have, I guess they could work together, top ranked PBC. I think they're open to it now, but Loma's 36 now. I don't want to see it unless it's next. I don't want to see Tank fight a 38-year-old like Lomachenko who just knock him out to just use his name. I think after the Kambosos performance, Lomachenko can still give Tank enough to think about at 36 where he is now, but there's the time, the window's closing for me on that fight now. I don't want to see that when Lomachenko's a shell of what he was.
If they fight next, I would go. I'd be Team Loma on that. I have to say.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Ultimately, if you remember back to when Loma fought Linares and he dropped him, and I do think that Tank can still make 130 pounds. I honestly do. I don't think he's a big lightweight at all. You saw that Frank Martin was massive compared to him in the ring on Saturday night. I actually think that size-wise, Loma and Tank probably aren't that far away from each other, whereas Loma's been outsized in a lot of his fights at 135 pounds.
But it's the movement. I think that he will struggle with Loma's sideways movement, his distance. I don't think Loma will fall for the feints. I don't think that he'll fall into it. I don't think he'll tire. Even at 36, I think his judgment of pace through a fight, he's, as you say, he's seen it all.
Yeah,
I don't see Tank being busy enough.
Yeah, he's gonna have to, if you're relying on a one punch knockout against Loma, you're in the wrong game. He isn't going to leave those openings. Essentially, that potentially Frank Martin left on Saturday night, and Leo Santa Cruz when he put him to sleep with that huge uppercut knockout of the year a few years ago. Yeah. So it's the fight. It's IBF and WBA unification. And then I spoke to somebody on Twitter, Dan the boxing fan. He's called. He said he'd like to see a semi-final style lineup, which I think makes complete sense. Loma versus Tank and Baranchik versus Shakur, and then your winners can fight for undisputed, which I'm sure Turkey's going to be interested in. I think it makes complete sense.
Yeah, I'd be well up for that.
I think that makes complete sense. So
Shakur,
the Shakur fight is the fight for sure. But we'll see what happens next. It's never as easy as that, is it? But we'll see what's next for Tank. As the co-feature, it was David Benavidez. It's not his debut at 175 pounds. I was corrected on that by someone the other day. He actually fought 8 times at 175 pounds in his career, but it was his first real meaningful test at 175 pounds. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Alexander Gvozdyk is no mug. His only loss before that was to Artur Beterbiev, former lineal champion at 175 pounds. Very, very good fighter in his own right. But the variable heading in was, retired after Beterbiev. He's 37 now. He's fought 3 fights since against,
Didn't he have that blood clot?
Yeah. So what happened with that was, after he fought Beterbiev, the thought he had a clot on his brain, but it turned out it was just a bad concussion. But I think after that, he basically, and understandably so, must have just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. The risks involved, which is completely fair enough, because he actually beat Adonis Stevenson, and there was complications with Stevenson after that one, I believe, too. Obviously he's gone through the ringer a bit, Gvozdyk, but I have to say he was in very good shape, and he performed okay. Benavidez, for me, I worry about his pop at 175 pounds. If you're talking about Bivol and Beterbiev fights, I struggle to make a case for him based off what I saw on Saturday. He looked great for the first few rounds, really ripping Gvozdyk to the body, and then as the fight wore on, and what I think genuinely happened is he realized he wasn't going to get this man out of there, and I think he coasted a little bit in the last half of the fight. And Gvozdyk obviously won quite a few rounds in that, but the same snap wasn't there in his shots. He probably got a bit tired too. But what did you think? How did you assess Benavidez' performance?
Yeah, I don't know if I quite saw it how you saw it. I don't think Benavidez, for the first half, I don't think he was respecting Gvozdyk's power. I don't think he thought this guy's going to hurt me. And for a few rounds, I mean, his head movement was really, really strong.
Yeah.
And he cuts off the ring so well. He really does.
Yeah.
His jab was heavy. He was getting to the body. Gvozdyk's jab was just tippy-tappy, and he was prodding.
It was lazy. He was pouring with it, wasn't he? And Benavidez was countering.
Yeah, and he doesn't put his hands back after throwing. And I have to say, for a couple of rounds, I thought, if he really doesn't get his hands up, he is going to get sparked. He really is. And his hook was good. And you're right. And I mean, even in the fifth, the left hand he threw a great left hand in the fifth. And you just thought, Gvozdyk's just not showing him enough. But you are right. Even though he had that lead right hand as well. But the second half, you are right. I think where I do agree with you, I think he did think this isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And Gvozdyk is more experienced at that weight, and his distance of the fight, not distance of his opponent, judgment of pacing himself was good. I just thought he was too explosive. He was dominant, but I get exactly what you mean. If he was fighting a Beterbiev, or even possibly, I don't know, Bivol, I'd give him a fair chance against Bivol. I don't know. The trouble is, I haven't seen either Bivol or him in with somebody that I thought, this guy could really give him a fight.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to judge.
It is very difficult to judge. Like, it's, you can't categorically say, a lot of people on Twitter I was interacting with yesterday, Benavidez has no chance against Bivol and Beterbiev.
I don't believe that.
As boxing fans, your recency bias, you watch Benavidez perform a couple of days ago, he's fresh in your head. Just because he didn't knock Gvozdyk out, all of a sudden he can't compete with those guys. That's the narrative going around now. I don't know how I feel about that. I believe that there'll be a rematch clause in Beterbiev and Bivol. So I think they're going to be tied up and that's if Beterbiev makes October the 12th, because, he's had his trouble with injuries, and that injury he had before, I don't know if he'll be fully recovered by then.
If you take a meniscus tear, which is, I think, what he had, it can heal, but he's been in some wars. And he's getting on. And both Bivol and Benavidez, particularly Benavidez, I don't think I've seen him in a fight where I thought, do you know what, this is really, really pushing you. This has taken some miles off your clock. And I don't see this how other people, maybe I'm an idiot, but I'd give him a fair chance against both of those guys, particularly against Beterbiev. I think put it this way, neither of them's going to be going looking for the other one. That's not how that's going to be.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He might struggle with Bivol's movement, possibly. But I don't think I've got enough information. I'm not sure how to judge I think I'd just be a fan. I'd get the popcorn in and be watching either of those fights. Be happy to see him.
Yeah, it's must-watch TV. That,
but I don't see this. I don't see him as having absolutely zero chance against either of them. I don't see that.
No. He'd be live, I think. But I have to be honest. I would favour both of them to beat him at this stage. But he would definitely be in the fights and live, and he will cause issues. That's a fact. What I think will happen, I think he'll either take another one at 175 towards the end of the year, or potentially one at 168. And I think they'll push for the May date for Canelo. I think because Beterbiev and Bivol will be tied up, I believe, and then that gives them time to free up. Even if he loses to Canelo, if they get that fight on, he can probably still make a run at 175.
But you think Canelo at 168 or at 175?
168, I think Canelo. I don't think Canelo would fight Benavidez at 175. I think that is giving up his advantages, I believe.
I think it'll only depend on whether Canelo is looking to come back up to 175 to fight Bivol. And that would be the only reason, because Canelo obviously is the master at putting everything, stacking everything into the way that he wants it.
Yeah.
But the only reason, there's no reason for Canelo to fight Benavidez, you're right, at 175, unless he wants Bivol at 175. Yeah. Well, that would be the reason to come up.
Yeah. It's a fair point. You can interject Canelo into that scenario as well. I don't see him doing anything against Bivol at 175. I'd probably stay away from that one if I was Canelo. But he is Canelo. He probably will try and push himself
But he has said he wants it. I saw him say that was the fight he wanted.
Yeah, there's it makes sense. He would want that back. He's that kind of guy. I just think that his demands for the Benavidez fight, 200 million he was asking for, and all this, I think it's ludicrous. I think Turkey will probably put the money up for Crawford against Canelo at some point.
I think that's far more likely. I think he's far more likely to fight he's got all of the advantages in that fight of weight and experience.
I think Turkey wants Benavidez versus the winner of Bivol and Beterbiev, and he wants Canelo Crawford. So genuinely, what Turkey wants, Turkey gets.
Yeah.
So that's possibly the more likely scenario. But I believe there'll be a rematch clause in Bivol Beterbiev. So I think we're going to see big fights, David. It's a great time to be a boxing fan.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It was actually a bit of a shock to the system having to watch all these fights from Vegas live at the weekend, because we've been so used to the Saudi fights, which obviously for the Americans isn't great. Well, it's still in the middle of the day in America, but for us it's at prime time. It
was a bit bizarre having the two fights on sort of at the same time and split screening and all of that. I didn't. I got up and watched them after, but I could see people.
So Matias Paro was maybe 6 rounds in when Tank and Frank Martin's first bell was going. Right. It was a bit of an unfortunate one, but it's very rare that we get those clashes these days. So
you're younger than me. You can stay up. I need some kit.
Right, we'll move over to Selhurst Park, WBO Cruiserweight Championship action. But Chris Billam-Smith defended against Richard Riakporhe. There was a good build up for it. It's actually really well promoted towards the weigh in and the fight night. It was a bit quiet before that, but fight week really did catch fire. Yeah. Anyone and anybody I spoke to, I interacted, put out tweets saying which fight you're looking forward to most. Everybody was coming back at me with Chris Billam-Smith, Richard Riakporhe. Just for reference, I was saying Matias Paro. Neither of them probably caught fire like they were going to, but it just didn't catch fire. In fairness to Billam-Smith and Shane McGuigan, the game plan was bang on. Shane McGuigan's a great trainer. Say what you like about what goes on with them. Shane McGuigan is a fantastic trainer. Billam-Smith, I picked Riakporhe. I picked him because, and it's recency bias, and it's not the way you should be picking fights, but you can't help it. Your eyes have seen certain things. Mateusz Masternak was picking Chris Billam-Smith apart in his last fight before it was stopped in the corner to like a rib injury, but he was hitting Billam-Smith at will. Yeah. I don't know if Billam-Smith didn't have any respect for what was coming back or his power or whatever it is, or he wasn't switched on, which is probably the more likely scenario. But, I thought Riakporhe, if he is touching Billam-Smith like that, he's gonna just get rid of him. But ultimately, what I think happened, David, I believe that Riakporhe was found out in the sense that since they first fought 5 years ago, Billam Smith's been fighting more frequently. He's been fighting better opposition, and that showed for me on Saturday night.
Yeah, well, just for clarity, I had CBS. I thought he would probably have to get off the floor, and I thought he'd actually stop Richard late. But I was big on CBS winning that fight. And actually, I don't think it was won in the ring. I think it was won on the scales. And I think Riakporhe is dead at cruiserweight. I think
he's a big guy, isn't he?
He looked shattered. His shots didn't have any snap. I also think it was one between the ears. I really do. I think that CBS is a very, very smart fighter.
He is.
And he's getting... there's all of this sort of extra 2% every time, and he's looking for all those gains. And you're right about Shane McGuigan. I think that whatever you think... And do you know what? I'm a huge fan. I really am. And I'm old enough to have watched most of his dad's fights, in real time rather than back on YouTube. And I mean, what they don't know just isn't worth having. And I think they had a game plan. I think it worked. I think that the real issue, they'd figured out that Riakporhe isn't, he's not a getting really, really close, throw the short shots. He needs those long punches. He needs that distance.
Yeah, Billam Smith didn't let him. He didn't give him the space, did he?
No,
that was what it was. That was the game plan. And Riakporhe was too one-dimensional. He didn't have any answer to what was happening when Billam Smith nullified his best weapon.
Yeah, his feints all worked. He controlled the tempo. He controlled the distance. He was the one with the game plan. And I mean, when Billam Smith fought Okolie, I felt the same thing. I felt that there was a CBS game plan, and Okolie was just reactive to what was coming without having any thought of what is it I'm actually trying to do in here. And I felt the same thing. I think that Richard was either found out level-wise or dead at that weight and didn't have a plan and froze a bit. Could also be because he was at home and there was a lot of pressure, but whatever it was.
I think that's a variable as well. Billam Smith's fought in the stadium shows, he's fought in big world title fights, he can draw on that a little bit. Riakporhe's not been treading water, but he's fought Gvozdyk and
inactivity is a killer.
Washed up version of Gvozdyk. He's not been fighting at the level. If anything, Billam Smith kicked on from their first fight, even though he lost.
Oh, I really do believe they've both improved, but CBS chose how that fight was going to be. The amount of holding, I mean, it really was a Okolie-like. I mean, Riakporhe there was so much wrestling going on.
Yeah.
And I thought, do you know what? He could have lost a point way earlier. And the comedy was when he lost that point in the 12th, it was for the heads, not for holding.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was just so much wrestling going on. And I genuinely think it was just, other than that big moment in the 9th when he took out.
Yeah, he had a big round, didn't he? But then you kind of think, we're going to get a shootout in the championship rounds, but no.
He was exhausted. He was absolutely done. And there was just so much holding. And I just think that genuinely he was just trying to understand what was going on in there and how it was working, and he was tired because of the weight. Just wasn't his night. I do think at heavyweight, whether he's with the right trainer or whether it's working for him, I don't know enough about his personal life other than watching them. I don't think there's quite what's going on with Madonna is quite what's going on there. But
he's very well connected in like a lot of A-list circles. Richard Riakporhe, it's very.
But I think that's probably his last fight at Cruiser.
Yeah,
I'm not sure he'd go up to. There's not really worth him being at Bridgerweight. I mean, who is there other than Okolie?
Okolie, yeah,
that's it.
I don't want to see that fight. Not for me.
I mean, can you imagine? I mean, they'd be bringing in the Undertaker and pile drivers if they're doing that. It's not.
That's not for me.
No, but I could see him moving up to. I could see him doing something at heavyweight. I really.
Yeah,
could.
well, he's 34, so he's gonna have to do something now. He's not really going to get another shot, I believe, at cruiserweight for a world championship.
Yeah. And what about for CBS? Who do you want to see him fight next?
Yeah, so the CBS one's interesting. So in the ring, in his interview, obviously, they're saying it's his dream to fight in America. They mentioned the Zurdo Ramirez fight, which every champion would probably want to unify with Zurdo. I believe he's there's a blueprint to beat him. Obviously, Bivol just box rings around him, his only defeat, but. I don't know if they'll get that. Obviously you want to see the Jai Opetaia fight, don't you? But they didn't mention Opetaia. Opetaia's tied in with the Saudis. We know Boxer and the Saudis don't really have a working relationship right now. Is Ben Shalom going to let one of his biggest stars and world champions fight on a Queensbury promoted show with Riyadh season? Probably not, in my opinion. So I don't think we'll see Opetaia next. I believe that they'll probably be trying to line up Zerdo for Opetaia on one of the Saudi shows. So
yeah,
it's where does that leave Billum Smith? The only fight really in America, you can't take Chris Billum Smith to America and not make him fight an American world champion. It wouldn't sell.
What's the point?
It wouldn't. You can't do it. So clearly they're going to be pushing for the Zerdo fight. But yeah, I don't know if they get it. If I'm being honest. He deserves a unification. I love Chris Billum Smith. He's not flashy. He doesn't talk. He's the gentleman by name and by nature. He's just a sound boxer. Working class. He really deserves all he gets. I'm a big fan of him.
It's interesting. I'm a huge fan as well, and I've seen him a couple of times live, and I love what he does. It used to all be all action, and you thought how much has been taken out of him. This time, he proved that not only can he box, but he can think. And yeah, I mean, I hope he gets the Ramirez fight. I really do. I think he's earned it.
Yeah.
I think it has to come soon. If it's coming, it has to come soon, because I can't see him hanging about 3, 4, 5 more fights and then waiting and treading water. I can't see it. He's got a young family, he's making some money. I can't see it. So I mean, Opetaia is an interesting one, because I'm not sure how long Opetaia is going to stay at cruiserweight. I might be found out here, but I suspect Opetaia might move up.
Yeah, I think, the way he's been treated in Saudi, he's clearly in favor with Turkey, and, Turkey loves the heavyweights. We all know that. So, are they lining him up for that potentially? I agree with you. I think he'll be up at heavyweight within the next 18. The only thing that would make sense for him to stay at cruiserweight, I guess, is if Usyk is being truthful about what he says, and if he wants to move that down to cruiserweight. I don't see that.
I can't see that. He's got a young family. What's he got to gain? I mean, if he's beaten all the champions at heavyweight, coming back down, I mean, the only thing I suppose he's got to gain is that nobody's ever done it.
Yeah.
But with coming back down to fight Opetaia at cruiserweight?
No, it doesn't make sense. It does, and it really doesn't make sense. But however, if it's for Opetaia, then sign me up. I would love to see that. Only if it's Opetaia. I have no interest in him fighting anyone else at cruiserweight.
Usyk beats Opetaia all day long.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure.
Beats him all day long. I wasn't big on his last performance, actually, but that's for another day.
Yes. So we'll go the co-main event for that one. Ben Whittaker against Aranyenka. So, yeah, my thoughts on Ben Whittaker. I worry about his pop, but people have been telling me that just because of the level of opposition he's fighting, we cannot have any more treading water fights for Ben Whittaker. In my opinion, he has to fight somebody that is going to at least pose some form of problem to him in his next fight. He's had the viral moments. Everybody knows who he is. Dancing around showboat. That's all good because he's built his profile off it. So,
but who's going to want it? Who's going to want that?
It is, but your Nassim Hameds and people like that who had all the moves. These guys are putting people to sleep as well. But unfortunately, and I don't want to come across as I'm bad mouthing Ben Whittaker because I'm a fan of him. It sounded like Selhurst Park was asleep during his performance on Saturday night. So, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible. He, in my opinion, in the last 15 seconds of the fight, when he stared up at the clock and he knew that it was about to finish, he put a flurry of punches together. He really hurt the guy. And, that to me says he could have got that guy out of there anytime he probably wanted to on Saturday night. But for whatever reason, at the minute, he's not getting the KOs.
I think he's young. I think he's learning. I think that, if you go back and watch his amateur stuff, and I've enjoyed doing a bit of that, that is just his style. It's not for everybody. And I know he got called out. And I know they had that tetchy Sky Sports thing when he, they called him
Clark.
The
laced up a pair of gloves.
But that said, it's not for everybody. I don't know if it's for me. If he was doing that and then banging people out.
Yeah. Oh God. You're tapping into a new level of fandom, casual fans. Oh, did you see that guy did this? But when you're doing all that and you're boxing your way to a 10-0 decision, it's it doesn't quite have the same flavor.
Yeah,
well,
but
I believe it, and I'm not coming from a point of view where I want Benavidez to succeed. I'm a big fan of his, but I just believe that he can step on the gas and get rid of these people, and for whatever reason, he's not doing it. That's just my thought on it.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It will be interesting. Let's see him in a fight.
Yeah.
Where he's actually pressured, where he's got to respond, where actually more than that, let's see him in a fight where he has to have a game plan, because I genuinely feel like he's going in, his methods kind of change. He's
making like it up as he goes along because he can, he's not, and he's that talented in it, he really can. He can do what he wants with these guys. Now, I'm not saying throw him in with a European champion or,
he's not ready for that.
Yeah, he's not. I'd like to see him have one more as a slight step up a level. Then you can start maybe looking at a Dan Aziz kind of opponent, because I think he'd box rings around Dan Aziz, if I'm being honest.
Well, Aziz looked ring rusty on that. I know we're not doing that one tonight, but he did look ring rusty. He starts slow, and I mean, I think he did well to get the draw in the end against Pep. But I think he's ready for Dan Aziz now. I do.
He is. But they just won't do it. I don't think.
No, because I mean, I'm not sure what he gains out of it, other than we need to see him in a genuine contest. Aaron Yankee is a serviceable. I mean, he's had good sparring, he's done those things, but he's not at Whittaker's level. And
he talked his way into it, didn't he, from the press conference? It was a logical fight, in fairness, but
but we need to see him be able to fight to a game plan. We need to see him have to dig a little deeper than he's had to dig. And you're right. You need somebody who actually walks in and says, "I don't respect your power. What are you going to do about it?" And he's got to have a plan for that. And we haven't seen him need to do that.
We'll know he's in a fight when he's not showboating. That's
he'll do it anyway.
I think when he starts moving up and he's fighting real live wires, and I know Fury did it against Usyk and all that. I know some people just have that in them. Well, maybe he will, but there's a switch, and Ben Whittaker definitely has that. He has that X factor. He has that, he's one of those that just has glide, peak performance. He's in that zone, and that is his zone. I agree. He's very much of that Tyson Fury kind of flow state style where, he's in there. He loves being under the lights. We spoke about Riakporhe maybe freezing a little bit. Ben Whittaker loves
that's
a big attribute to have.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they make him against. I mean, if you get another fight next where it's not only is it not competitive, but he's not learning.
I'll tell you who would be a good opponent. Tell you who would be a good opponent. Malik Zinad, who just fought Bivol on the 5v5.
That
would be. It won't happen again, I don't think. But that would be because Ben Whittaker would beat him. But it would be, it's a name. He's just fought Bivol. He's
got to get that trajectory exactly as you say, because at the moment, I don't feel in the last 3 fights,
they've all been the same.
We haven't learned anything. I'm not sure he's learned anything.
Yeah, it's just going on the same trajectory. We're just doing the same thing over and over again. We've got to see something different next time round. That's the facts of the matter. We'll quickly move on to Subriel Matias against Liam Paro, another one where I looked fairly stupid in my prediction beforehand. I did give Liam Paro a lot of credit. In fairness, I watched him fight. I watched him knock out Brock Jarvis in a round. I watched him against Montana Love, who was highly touted at one point. I thought we could get a potential fight of the year contender here, David. I really thought we were going to get 6 rounds of absolute chaos, to be honest with you. When I watched Matias ring walk, the atmosphere was absolutely electric. But what I also noticed in his ring walk, he took that long to get to the ring, and he was looking around, and he was, he got completely caught up in the moment. Before you know it, 36 minutes had gone, and Liam Paro had completely outboxed him. And the commentary team on DAZN were quite funny. Every single round that passed by and Paro won. Matias is a slow starter. Matias is going to, everything led up to Matias is going to, chin him in a minute. And it just didn't happen. He had a decent 6th round. I think he stung Paro a bit. But I think, time to give Liam Paro some credit. He's a serious operator. He went into the Lions Den. That was a real cauldron in Puerto Rico on Saturday. The atmosphere was absolutely electric. Credit to Eddie and Matrim. That was a very, very good good show they put on there. But yeah, Liam Paro's going to get a homecoming now in Australia, but disappointing from Matias.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what to make of it. I thought the home pressure really got to him. I agree with you. I mean, I scored that 117, 110, and I think it could have even been 118, 109. I mean, it was, I know that they, I'm not sure I agreed with the judges. They had it closer than I did. Or was Matias exposed a bit? I don't know what to make of it.
Genuine potential of that. It's interesting because no one wanted to fight him before that Liam Paro fight. So
they'll be queuing up now.
Yeah, and
they'll have a bit
now all of a sudden, because Prograis was on FaceTime to Prograis before. I don't like all that. He looked past Liam Paro. Let's just have it right. Now there's Devin Haney wants to do unification with Liam Paro, but I laughed on Twitter yesterday because I said that would they have wanted to do it if Matias won? Full well they wouldn't have wanted to have a unification if Matias won.
I didn't see any of the punch stats, but I mean I've seen. I like all of the stat stuff, and previously Matias sort of 80 to 90 punches around. I mean, if he was half that this time or less, it was very, very strange. I mean, I'm not sure he threw anything until the third round.
He was the anti-Tank performance, wasn't he? Complete opposite to Tank. with being a puncher, he was literally just waiting for that. He just thought, if I can just get one off at some point, it's over. But Paro was too smart for that.
But I mean, looking at Tank doesn't throw, but there's this constant pressure and thought process, and he's wearing people down.
Matias was like a lost puppy in there, wasn't
he? Was following him around, and the lateral movement of Paro. Let's give him his due. I mean, those sort of short uppercuts, but creates that sideways space. It reminded me a little bit. The sideways movement reminded me of a Better Be a little bit, that he'd just slide to the side. He'd get something off, slide sideways.
It was brilliant.
Jab. Yeah.
It was great because Liam Paro's power puncher himself. He really can bang. But what I loved about the performance is he wasn't loading up and he wasn't trying to bang with Matias. He was like, okay, I'm going to let you follow me around and try and whack me. I'm just going to keep point scoring on you. I'm just going to keep popping out. He didn't sit down on his punches massively, but he recognized that, that probably wasn't the right way to approach this fight. He was constantly, tapping him, and, he did exactly what you need to do. He arguably did expose Matias in that fight.
Yeah, because at what point did he pressure Paro? At what point did he sort of figure any of that lateral stuff out? Or I didn't see Paro at any point in that fight he was under pressure, but he wasn't troubled.
Yeah,
not at all.
No. Just at one point, I think it was round 6 or 7. I think Matias stung him a little bit, but
6 with the uppercut.
Yeah. But again, he's tough man as well, Liam Paro. It's going to be interesting now. The dynamics completely changed of that 140-pound division because Matias was the boogeyman and no one really wanted to mention him. But now Liam Paro, people are going to be all over that fight. So you've got Teofimo Lopez is fighting in a few weeks against Claggett. You have Sandor Martin and Devin Haney. Look like it's going to be he's mandatory, but if Haney pushes for Paro, they could get rid of that in terms of a unification. Which
that fight makes some sense. I think Paro Haney makes a lot of sense.
But what I'm thinking as well, if that doesn't come to fruition, the Manchester show, it's looking like it's going to be headlined by Jack Catterall against Barboza. But the same Barboza that robbed Sean McComb last time out, it has to be said. So I think Catterall does win that fight. But if I'm Sam Jones and Jack Catterall, I'm blowing up Eddie Hearn's phone saying, "Get me that Liam Paro fight." That's the fight to be.
That'd be real because he's like the anti-Matias. He's incredibly busy and slick. And I mean, I was at the Josh Taylor fight. And I mean the speed of his work, the thought that went into it, I think he would give Paro some serious trouble.
Yeah,
I think even though I'm a Liam Paro fan, I'd have Catterall winning that.
Yeah, I think Jack Catterall has a real chance in that fight. Yeah, it's completely blown the division apart. It's a great. There's a lot of good going on in that 140-pound division at the moment.
It's electric. There's a lot there.
Looking forward to seeing what's next. We're going to find out probably in the coming weeks with T.O. fighting, and Haney's purse bids are going to be happening. So we're going to probably find out really what's what is going to, and
give him 10 minutes. You'll have Garcia calling Paro out.
Yeah. You
after calling out God.
Yeah, Ryan Garcia without doubt being that mix too. So yeah, that'll do it for the roundup of this week's action. David, we'll look ahead to it's a little bit of a thinner schedule this weekend. Friday, you've got Lyndon Arthur. He's fighting Liam Cameron. On Saturday, there's a good matchroom show from Birmingham Resorts World, headlined by Tyler Denny against Felix Cash. Cash hasn't fought in 18 months. He's undefeated. Is there any reason why he hasn't fought in so long?
Well, let's talk about
Did
that.
Did he not have
briefly.
Was it a drugs scare or something?
They call it a shadow ban.
Right.
And now, let me just say, allegedly.
Yes.
Not that I'm going to get sued, because who the hell am I? But, and Tyler Denny even went on record. There's an interview with him talking about it, saying, why is nobody talking about this? Early 2023, there was a sort of silent ban, allegedly. I don't know if it's true or not, where he was given a shadow ban, which is, when they ban, but they don't say that they've done it or why they've done it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Cash has this record of pulling out, but if it were me, allegedly, if it's true and there was a shadow ban, who knows what drug, why it's for, what's gone on, whether it could still give him anything for his performance. I just think that the inconsistency of activity, the inactivity he's had those cuts, his left eye twice in a row. He's been hurt badly with these cuts.
It's been weird because he had that great performance against Denzel Bentley, didn't he? I think that was to win the British title a few years ago now, but it just hasn't really.
But it was on the Warrington Lopez undercard at where was it? First Direct at Leeds.
Yes.
Was that his last time out? That was like December 22.
Yeah, it was, because you have to go all the way back. I think it was on a Queensbury show when he went over to fight Denzel Bentley, but I think that was in around COVID. It was that long ago, and he really hasn't been fighting. You contrast that to Tyler Denny, who's been you actually go down his record and look, he's got some very sneaky good wins on his record. Tyler Denny, he took Bradley Razo. I think his only defeat was to Tyler Denny. Brad Pauls he's beat, who obviously drew with Nathan Heaney last time out. He's fighting in the same arena a month after in a rematch with Heaney for the British title. Who's the other one? He's Macaulay McGowan. He's beat, who had a great fight on Friday night. Just gone for the European title. So he's got some very sneaky good wins on there, Tyler Denny, and he's come on loads. He really has. Yeah,
and he's so down to earth. He's done the small pull thing. And he's on a 5-fight winning streak. He looks, I don't know, he looks absolutely amazing.
He's loving it. And,
he looks fantastic.
To him. You love seeing boxers come through the small, and, now he's headlining a very, good big show on DAZN on Saturday night. It's a great story.
And I think Cash has had I think he's split with his wife. He's had some personal issues. There's all sorts actually going on in that. I mean, I'm going to go out there and say I think Denny will probably not necessarily start fast, but I think Denny wins that. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I think it's a tough ask for. He's on an absolute tear at the moment. I think that's a tough ask for Felix Cash. I really do. Fight I'm really looking forward to. Lewis Crocker against Conor Walker. That'll be
it's a hell of a fight.
I think that's a cracking fight. Obviously had Billy Nelson on a few weeks ago. He is. I know it's Billy and he loves Bacoli and Crocker, but he is incredibly high on his man Lewis Crocker. Says he punches like a super middleweight at 147. I had the fight in Belfast against Tyrone McKenna. Tyrone McKenna's notoriously, he's incredibly tough. Look at his fight with Regis Prograis. Crocker couldn't get him out of there, but he performed great. And then last time out, he fought Jose Felix, who knocked out Gary Cully, and just took him out. Really, it was a beautiful performance.
But it was a really odd one because he didn't make the weight, but they did the check weight. They did the midweek check weight. And they said it was unsafe to do that. And so I'm with you. I think Crocker, I love it. And I saw what Billy had to say on a couple of these. And I'm a huge Crocker fan. And I mean, what is he? Ranked second in the country.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's got 11 KOs in his 19 wins. He's undefeated. But he has said he sees this as a keep busy fight, which I never like to hear.
Yeah, no, Conor Walker's he's very game. You know,
he's nobody's keep busy fight.
Ask Cyrus Pattinson about, you know, Conor Walker. He'll be there all night. So yeah, no, there can't be. You know, I know Billy played down the fact that they're in. No, it's just a boxing ring. It doesn't matter where it is, but you know, he is on away soil, and Conor Walker's got a good following in the Midlands.
I'm not sure about this weight thing. Is he tight? He's had a bit of inactivity. Is he tight at the weight? He missed the check weight, but I might be missing something. Wasn't the check weight set at 150?
Yeah, I do remember it now. Yeah, there was controversy around it. They had to completely revamp what weight it was going to be at and everything for that fight. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how he definitely.
I just wondered if he'd move up, but he has come. He's still at welter.
No, I think I don't see him missing weight this time around in this big fight. But you know, we'll keep an eye out on Friday and see how.
I think. For me, I think what's going to happen, I think it's going to be an all-out war, I suspect. I think that this is a big step up for Walker. I mean, he's lost a couple out of his last 5. He lost to, I think, isn't Kane Gardner on this bill? And he lost to Kane Gardner. I think that the body work, I think that the body shots of Crocker will probably be too much, but I think it'll be a war, and I think probably 6-9. For me.
Yeah, I think it's Crocker could stop him in this one. I really do think that, but I think he's going to be asked a few questions, and you know, I did ask Billy about this as well. He was a bit nonchalant about it, but I think it's fair to say they're building for the Paddy Donovan All Ireland fight. I think that's where Matt Truman will go, and he was quite dismissive of it. But you know, we as fans can see what goes on, and we see the noise that's being made around.
Sign me up for that one. I would.
I think I actually think, you know, Donovan's just fought against Lewis Ritson. If Crocker wins this, I don't see why you can't do it on a big island card in summer or what? Sorry, not summer, in October, November time. You know, Home was in Belfast in December last year. You know, do you do it in the 3 Arena in Dublin? You know, I don't know. You know, there's options, but I think that fight, it makes complete sense. Loser can rebound. It's not a case of.
Yeah, I mean, if he wins, and when he wins this, I mean, he's going to be 20-0. He's getting the knockouts. I mean, as long as he doesn't overlook Conor Walker, then yeah, I see him winning this, and I think you're right. I think it make not unification, but a homecoming fight, if you like, would make a lot of sense. And then he's going to have to push on. He's going to have to push on.
Yeah, it makes welter. You know, the winner of that, you're right in the mix to kicking on to, you know, probably European and then world level straight after that. And the loser, you know, just takes a couple of performances and you're back in. You know, the O needs to stop being as protected as much in boxing. You know, you have to go in the deep end at some point, because a lot of these guys who have their O for a long time, then eventually they are in the deep end. They're not prepared and they're not ready. You know, we've seen with, you know, obviously Billum Smith lost his O to Riakporhe. You know, we've seen how that, you know, came about. There's many other big examples of it in recent times of people losing and they come back. They're a better fighter from losing. That's the God's honest truth.
Yeah, you got to, and whether you genuinely lost or whether you're just not given the, you know, the Nick Ball style, you won but you didn't win.
Yeah. Daniel Dubois is the best example of it.
Yeah. I've seen most of his UK fights. I was at Tottenham to watch him when he got that knee injury on the undercard of the Fury Chisora debacle.
Kevin Laranga, was it?
Yeah,
and down a few times.
Yeah, he got an injury to his knee, but you're right. I mean, now he's like an unrecognizable fighter.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, let's see. I mean, Crocker, you just want to see him pushed, and I hope that Walker can. It's a big step up for Conor Walker. It really is. He's not been with anybody like Lewis Crocker.
No.
So that, yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, should be a good card. That, and at least it's not on for us UK fans in the middle of the night. But
yeah,
that'll do it there. David, thank you very much for coming on.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate that. We'll have to get you back on again very soon. And yeah,
That'd
we'll
be good.
catch you next time.
Great. It's good to talk to you.
Cheers, David.
See ya.